So, you just signed all that paperwork for your health insurance. What happens now? For most of us, it feels like it just disappears into some kind of black box. But what's really happening is the start of a fascinating detective story, and today, we're going to follow the clues.
I mean, think about it. You've answered all those personal questions, you've dotted every I, maybe you even handed over that first check. But the second that application leaves your hands, a really complex investigation kicks off. And its goal is to figure out one simple thing. How much of a risk are you to insure?
All right, here's our case file for today. First, we'll look at how the investigation gets started. Then, we'll analyze the main piece of evidence. After that, we'll follow the paper trail for more clues, cover your rights, and finally, we get to the verdict.
Okay, let's dive into part 1. The investigation begins. The moment you hand over that application, the case is officially opened.
So this is pretty much the roadmap every single application follows. It's a very systematic process, right? They gather the evidence, they build a profile on you, and then they make a decision. Every single step here is designed to paint a really clear picture of you, the applicant, and any potential risk you might bring.
So who's the lead detective in this whole operation? Well, it's a person called the underwriter. Their entire mission is to figure out the level of risk you present to the insurance company. They're the ones piecing all these clues together to make that final judgment call.
And that brings us to the single most important piece of evidence in the whole case. Exhibit A, your application.
And that is not an exaggeration. Your application isn't just a formality or some simple paperwork. It is the absolute foundation of the entire underwriting decision. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here.
So your application is usually broken down into 3 key parts. Part 1 is all the general stuff, who you are, what you do, your hobbies. Part 2 is the real deep dive. That's your medical history, personal and family. And then there's Part 3, which is super interesting. It's the agent's own confidential report with their personal observations about you.
Now this is crucial. Every answer you give is considered a representation. All that means is you're stating it's true to the best of your knowledge. You don't have to have a perfect memory, but a significant misrepresentation, basically a big mistake, even if you didn't mean it, could give the insurer a reason to cancel your policy later. So honesty is absolutely the best policy here.
Of course, the investigation hardly ever stops with just the application. A good detective always digs a little deeper. So let's see how underwriters follow that paper trail to get more clues.
For example, let's say you mention a specific health issue on your application. Well, the underwriter is probably going to request what's called an attending physician statement, or APS, from your doctor. Now, this isn't your entire medical record, it's a very targeted report, just to get the nitty-gritty details they need about that one condition.
Next up is something called the MIB, or the Medical Information Bureau. The easiest way to think about it is like a secure information sharing hub for insurance companies. They use it to check for coded info from your past applications, which helps them spot any inconsistencies. But, and this is a big but, they can't deny you coverage based only on what's in an MIB report. It's just a tool for them to double-check things.
And believe it or not, the search for clues can go even further. Depending on the policy, underwriters might ask for medical exams, they might pull your DMV report to see if you have risky driving habits, or even look at credit reports to get a sense of your financial stability. And if you have hobbies like scuba diving or flying planes, you'll probably get a special questionnaire for that too. They're really trying to get a full 360-degree view of the risk.
Okay, I know this might all be starting to sound a little invasive, but it's not a free-for-all. This investigation has very strict rules. So let's talk about the rules of engagement, your rights, and the legal protections you have.
2 massive laws really run the show here. The first is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or FCRA. That's all about making sure that consumer info, like credit reports, is accurate and used fairly. Then you have the big one, HIPAA. We've all heard of it. HIPAA basically puts a strong, protective wall around your personal health information, controlling exactly who gets to see it and why.
And there are even more protections. A law called GINA prevents insurers from using your genetic info against you. They also have to give you privacy notices explaining everything. Plus, they need your specific consent for certain tests, like for HIV. Insurers even have to follow anti-money laundering rules. The bottom line is, you have some serious legal protections on your side throughout this whole thing.
So, all the evidence has been gathered. It's been analyzed. Our detective, the underwriter, has reviewed the entire case file. Now it's time for the final stage, the verdict.
Now, From a legal point of view, it's pretty important to understand what's happening here. When you submit that application and your first premium payment, you are legally making an offer to the insurance company to start a contract. The ball is officially in their court to either accept your offer, reject it, or come back with a counteroffer.
The little piece of paper you get for that first payment, your premium receipt, is incredibly important. Most of the time, it's what's called a conditional receipt. This means your coverage can start right away, but only if you get approved in the end. A binding receipt, which is way more rare for health insurance, gives you temporary coverage no matter what until they make a final decision. So knowing which one you have is a really big deal.
So let's see how that conditional receipt actually works. Say you apply on August 2nd and you do your medical exam on the 4th. If you had an accident on August 7th and the company officially approves you on the 10th, guess what? You were covered for that accident. Your coverage goes back in time, retroactively, to the date of your exam, but only because you were found to be insurable on that date.
So after all that digging, what's the final verdict going to be? Well, there are really three possibilities. You could be approved as applied. That's the best case. You get exactly what you ask for. You could be flat out rejected, or you could get a counteroffer.
And that's exactly what a counteroffer is. The insurance company basically says, look, we can't accept your original offer, but based on our investigation, we can offer you this other policy instead, but it's probably going to have a higher premium. In legal terms, they've rejected your offer and made a new one. And now it's up to you to decide if you want to accept their new terms.
So, now that you've seen the whole investigation laid out, from start to finish, does it change how you think about your insurance application? It's really not just a form, is it? It's the first piece of evidence in a case file that's built entirely around you. The next time you fill one out, just remember, the detective is already on the case.